This video was created from the Advocates in Action presentation, Public Speaking Tips. It includes 40 slides and runs for 25 minutes. Slide 1. Public Speaking Tips from Advocates in Action. The image on this slide shows a microphone with a blurred background of a room full of people. Slide 2. Public speaking versus everyday conversations. What's the difference? The images on this slide show a man using a microphone to address an audience, and a man and a woman chatting in a restaurant. What is the difference between public speaking and everyday conversations? In other words, what is different when you give a speech versus when you have a chat with friends or talk to someone in line at the grocery store? Take a moment to think about your answer and how it compares with the information on the next few slides. These slides will use the same two images as the ones you see here. Slide 3. Difference 1. Location. Where are you speaking? While conversations can take place almost anywhere, public speaking typically occurs in a more formal setting, such as an auditorium, a boardroom, or a stage. Slide 4. Difference 2. Audience. To understand how your audience is different when giving a speech, think about these questions. Who and how many people are you talking to? How do you know those people? In a private conversation, you usually know or have something in common with the people you're talking to. For example, if you're chatting in the grocery line, you're both shopping. On the other hand, you usually don't know most of your audience members when giving a speech in public. We also tend to have conversations with a much smaller group while we deliver speeches to a larger audience. Slide 5. Difference 3. Preparation. Did you plan to talk about that topic with that person or people at that time and day? Public speaking means preparing what you want to say and delivering your speech to an audience at a scheduled date and time. On the other hand, most everyday conversations happen spontaneously, which means you didn't plan for them in advance or bring any notes. Slide 6. Difference 4. Authority. Why are you the person giving this speech? What are your qualifications? A person is considered an authority when they've studied or have lived experience with a certain topic. Learning about a topic and having experience with it makes you more qualified to talk about it than someone who hasn't. People need to be qualified in some way when they give a presentation or make a speech. On the other hand, it doesn't take any training or qualifications to have a conversation with someone. Slide 7. Anything else? Take a moment to think of other differences between public speaking and everyday conversations. Slide 8. Public speaking can be stressful. The image on this slide shows a microphone facing a room full of people. Would you feel comfortable standing in front of this microphone to give a speech? In this presentation, we'll share 10 tips for public speaking that can help ease some of the stress people feel when giving a speech or presentation. Slide 9. Tip 1. Being nervous is normal. The image on this slide shows a woman clutching a microphone with both hands, looking nervous. Most people get nervous at the thought of giving a speech, but your racing heart and sweaty palms don't mean you'll do a bad job. In fact, those nerves mean your body is releasing adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that your body secretes to give it an extra boost of energy when it feels stress. This boost helps a person focus on the situation at hand. The same adrenaline rush that makes you sweat will also make you more alert and ready to give your best. Slide 10. Tip 2. Know your audience. The image on this slide shows a person facing a large room full of people while giving a speech. When you give a speech, remember that your message is for your audience, not you. Think about who you'll be talking to. Who will be in your audience? Make sure to speak the same language as your audience. A person's language is more than the words they use. It also includes their background and culture. For example, if you're speaking to a group of teenagers, find out what the latest jargon is so you can 6-7 with the best of them. If you're presenting to people who speak a different language, take some time to learn about any words or phrases that don't translate well or that your audience may even find offensive. Slide 11. Tip 3. Be prepared. The image on this slide shows a professional, friendly man smiling at the camera. Being prepared means thinking in advance about both your appearance and what you'll say in your speech. It includes things like good hygiene, knowing what to wear, thinking about what to eat and drink, and what to avoid before you speak. Of course, it also includes planning your speech. Let's take a closer look. Slide 12. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Hygiene. The image on this slide shows a man wearing a shower cap, smiling behind a shower curtain. When you give a speech, it's essential that you do everything possible to connect with your audience and help them listen without distractions. That's why good hygiene is an important step to preparing your speech. Good hygiene means being clean and presentable. This includes things like bathing, using deodorant, and brushing your teeth. Public speakers need to practice good hygiene to avoid distracting or offending their audience. After all, no one wants to sit through a speech listening to someone who reeks of body odor. Slide 13. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Appearance. The image on this slide shows a professional man straightening his tie. When speaking in public, it's also important to wear event-appropriate clothing. Event-appropriate clothing means dressing for the occasion, audience, and setting. It also means avoiding things like clothes with political messages or brand names. In fact, as a general rule of thumb, it's safer to avoid clothing with any type of printed designs or words on it. Remember, if you show up in an outfit that doesn't respect the event you're speaking at, people may think about what you're wearing more than what you're talking about. On the next few slides, we'll look at some examples of event-appropriate clothing. Be ready to share what you'd wear to give a speech in the following situations. Slide 14. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Appearance example 1. The image on this slide shows a large crowd at a baseball game. What type of clothing would you wear if you're speaking at a sports event to celebrate your favorite team? Slide 15. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Appearance example 2. The image on this slide shows the Rhode Island State House. What type of clothing would you wear if you're testifying at the State House? Slide 16. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Appearance example 3. The image on this slide shows two people getting married. What type of clothing would you wear if you're giving the toast at your best friend's wedding? Slide 17. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Appearance example 4. The image on this slide shows a classroom of young school children raising their hands. What type of clothing would you wear if you're speaking to a kindergarten class? Slide 18. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Food and drink. The image on this slide shows a professional man holding a can of soda. We've talked about what to wear, but being prepared also means thinking about what to drink and eat, and what not to drink and eat. We all want people to listen to the words we've prepared, but the truth is that many will be distracted by the awkward bodily functions they notice while you're talking. Yes, this is the part where we talk about burping and passing gas. To be blunt, if you burp or toot while giving a speech, most people will be distracted. Some may even remember that, more than what you talked about. Don't get us wrong, because both of those bodily functions are perfectly natural, but that doesn't mean we need to do them while we're talking to others. Fortunately, with a bit of planning, this is easily avoided. For example, think about what would happen if you chugged a can of soda before your speech. If you're like most people, you'd burp the whole time. Pause for a moment and think about this question. If soda makes you burp and you're about to give a speech, what should you do? You should always avoid carbonated beverages before a speech. The same is true with eating any foods that you know will give you gas. If beans make you toot while you talk, don't eat them. Remember, the goal is to have people remember your words, not your bodily functions. Of course, sometimes these things still happen. If they happen to you while you're giving a speech, don't make a big deal of it. Simply say, "Excuse me," and move on. Slide 19. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Goals. The image on this slide shows a man smiling at the camera as he points sideways to a box that says, "Why are you giving this speech?" Being prepared is more than just hygiene, clothing, and avoiding carbonated drinks. It also means thinking about the reason you're giving a speech in the first place and how you'll deliver your message. To prepare your speech, start by thinking about your goals. What are you trying to say? Why are you talking about this topic? Why not talk about something else? What do you want people to take away from your speech when you're done? Slide 20. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Remember to KISSSS. The image on this slide shows a man blowing a kiss at the camera. Relax, we don't mean giving people in your audience a real kiss. The letters KISSSS are something called an acronym. An acronym is a word that's created from the first letter of other words or phrases to help people remember information about a certain topic. In addition to hygiene and clothing, being prepared also includes planning for and creating your speech. In the next 4 slides, we'll explain how the KISS acronym can help you do this. Slide 21. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Keep it short. The image on this slide shows a person blowing a kiss at the camera and the KISS acronym with the first S highlighted. When preparing your speech, remember to keep it short. How much time do you have for your speech? If you were given a certain amount of time, don't go over it. If you're in charge of the time, tell the event organizer how long your speech is in advance. It's also a good idea to tell your audience how much time to expect before you begin speaking. And remember, you don't need to keep repeating the same information. Say what you need to say and move on. Slide 22. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Keep it simple. The image on this slide shows a person blowing a kiss at the camera and the KISS acronym with the second S highlighted. When preparing your speech, remember to keep it simple. When you give a speech, make sure to use words and ideas that your audience will understand. Don't try to impress people with fancy vocabulary. The best way to reach your audience is by speaking their language. Slide 23. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Keep it sincere. The image on this slide shows a person blowing a kiss at the camera and the KISS acronym with the third S highlighted. Being sincere means speaking from your heart. Rather than repeating gossip and hearsay, someone who is sincere will share the facts and speak the truth. When you're sincere, it means you believe in the power and importance of the message you're sharing and want your audience to believe in it too. Slide 24. Tip 3. Be prepared, continued. Keep it sweet. The image on this slide shows a person blowing a kiss at the camera and the KISS acronym with the fourth S highlighted. Being sweet is another way of saying be polite and friendly. Being negative is a quick way to turn off your audience. No one wants to listen to a presenter who insults their audience and doesn't have anything nice to say. Chances are that someone in your audience is bound to disagree with you at some point. While you should never set aside your own beliefs to make someone else feel better or let the facts slide, being sweet means accepting that others may think differently and letting them know that's okay. Slide 25. Tip 4. Pay attention and adapt. The image on this slide shows a woman holding a bullhorn while listening to someone else speak. When giving a speech, it's essential to watch your audience to ensure they're tuned in to what you're saying. If people are starting to fade, remain calm and change things up. On the next slide, we'll share examples of how you can adapt if your audience starts to tune out. Slide 26. Tip 4. Pay attention and adapt, continued. The image on this slide shows a group of audience members looking bored and falling asleep. If you notice people in your audience tuning out, don't ignore it and keep on talking. Instead, here are 3 things you can try to change things up. Idea 1. Less is more. Shorten your speech. Remember, you don't need to give your whole speech. If you're losing your audience, try cutting some out. Instead of sharing 3 examples, maybe you can share just 2. Idea 2. We're almost done. Acknowledge and reassure. For example, if you see people losing interest, try saying, I know this is a lot of information, but we're almost done. Idea 3. Time for a break. If you notice people fading, it may be time to take an interactive break. The word interactive means you involve your audience members. An interactive break is a brief diversion that can re-energize your audience and help them focus. Some examples of interactive breaks include doing some group stretches, playing Simon Says, or having a 30-second dance party. If you're starting to fade while watching this video, now is a great time to take a break and do one of these activities. Slide 27. Tip 5. Be yourself. The image on this slide shows a woman pointing to the words "Be yourself" while giving a double thumbs up. You're an expert. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Avoid using big words to impress your audience, especially if you don't understand them. You also don't need to dress in a way that makes you uncomfortable in your own skin. While you should remember to wear event-appropriate clothing, it's also important to remain true to your own personal style. For example, don't wear high heels if you think they'll make you fall. Overall, relax and remember, you know what you're talking about, or you wouldn't be talking about it. Slide 28. Tip 5. Be yourself continued. Help is okay. The image on this slide shows two men standing on a stage with one man helping the other read some notes. While we all have our own communication style, it's important to remember that you're there to speak to your audience. This means you may need to make accommodations to help others understand what you're saying. For example, if you're someone with a significant accent or speech impediment, you may want to consider asking a friend or using technology, such as a text-to-speech device, to help deliver your speech. The same is true if you're someone who feels anxious about speaking in public and would be more comfortable if you had a friend there with you to show moral support. Remember that the words you want to share are yours, and it's okay to have some help as you deliver them to your audience. Slide 29. Tip 6. Keep it interesting. The image on this slide shows a man juggling multicolored balls. People will have an easier time remembering your speech if you connect with more than just the spoken word. After all, no one wants to sit there and listen to you talk in a monotone voice until you're done. In the next few slides, we'll share some ideas about how to keep your speech interesting. Slide 30. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Use props. The image on this slide shows a woman and a duck smiling into the camera. Props are objects that help highlight what you're talking about. For example, would you rather hear about Deb's pet ducks, or would you prefer seeing, hearing, or maybe even touching them? Props help people connect with your topic better than words alone could ever do. Slide 31. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Share a story. The image on this slide shows a woman speaking into a microphone and smiling as she addresses an auditorium full of people. Sharing an interesting story about your topic can help people tune in and stay engaged. Just make sure that there's a point to your story. In other words, don't just ramble on and on. Slide 32. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Use humor. The image on this slide shows a man wearing a fish mask. At least we think it's a fish mask. Humor is another great way to keep things interesting. Just make sure others will find your content funny too. In other words, don't use inside jokes that only a few people will understand. Slide 33. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Use slides. The image on this slide shows a man speaking while showing a slide on the screen behind him. Slides, such as a PowerPoint presentation, can help illustrate your message, but you should use them only to support and enhance your speech, not replace it. In other words, write your speech in a way that would let you give it even without your slides. This means you should think about what you want to say before you start creating the slides. If you use slides, make sure they're geared to your audience. For example, a room full of accountants will understand charts and graphs better than a room full of kindergarten students. It's also important to limit the amount of information on each slide. If you have several points to make, use a separate slide for each one. Don't just write your speech on the slides and read it to your audience. Doing so may annoy those who are able to read and frustrate those who can't. Finally, make sure your slides are accessible. Accessible means that everyone can access your presentation, regardless of how they communicate. When using slides in a presentation, being accessible means describing the images and reading the text to your audience. Slide 34. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Sing or play music. The image on this slide shows a woman singing into a microphone. Music can help people connect with your message. If you're a decent singer or able to play an instrument, even better. If you're not a musical person, it's probably safer to stick with a recorded song. While belting out a line or two of poorly sung lyrics may be okay if you break into the full chorus off-key to impress the audience with your musical talent, chances are they'll remember your flat singing voice more than they remember your speech. Slide 35. Tip 6. Keep it interesting continued. Anything else? The image on this slide is a group of pictures from the previous 5 examples of how to keep things interesting. Moving clockwise from the top left, these images include a woman with a duck, a woman sharing a story with an audience, a woman singing, a man speaking while showing a slide on the screen behind him, and a person wearing a fish mask. Can you think of some other ways to make a speech more interesting? Slide 36. Tip 7. Talk, don't read. The image on this slide shows a dog in front of a microphone. Do not read your speech to your audience. It's also not a good idea to memorize your entire speech and recite it. Instead of reading or reciting your speech from memory, try making an outline of what you want to say. Making an outline means summarizing your main points in a few words that you can refer to while speaking. Alternatively, you can also use note cards or pictures to remind you of the points you want to make. As you're talking, remember to face your audience and look at them. It's okay to refer to your outline of note cards, but it's important to make eye contact with your audience throughout your speech. If people in your audience are blind, you should still face them and talk to them. Overall, remember that your audience doesn't know what's in your speech. That means you don't need to worry about leaving something out or changing the order while you're talking. Slide 37. Tip 8. Watch your body language. The image on this slide shows a woman holding a microphone and looking nervous. Your nonverbal communication or body language should help explain or enhance what you're saying. Some examples of watching your body language include the following. Don't just flail your arms around like a windmill. Don't put your hands in your pockets. Don't fiddle with things. For example, don't hold a pen and click it while talking. Don't pace. Some movement is okay, but it should match what you're talking about. For example, if you're telling a story about something that made you angry, you might demonstrate with clenched fists and even stomping your foot. Finally, remember to look at your audience. If you look somewhere else, their eyes will follow yours. Slide 38. Tip 9. Keep it real. The image on this screen shows a man and a woman holding microphones, covering their mouths, and looking like they've made a mistake. Tell the audience if you communicate differently. For example, if you have a speech impediment and plan to have someone assist you while giving your speech, let them know before you begin. Tell the audience when you make a mistake or don't know the answer. Don't just make things up. Try to relate to your audience members, but keep it real. For example, don't say, "I understand" or "I can relate" unless you really do. Slide 39. Tip 10. Practice, practice, practice. The image on this slide shows a woman sitting at a laptop while speaking into her smartphone. Imagine that this woman is preparing to give a speech. What do you think she's doing with her phone to help her prepare? This woman is recording herself giving her speech so she can listen to how it sounds. You should always practice what you're going to say and how you're going to say it before you give your speech. Here are some ways to practice. You can speak in front of a mirror. You can record your speech on a smartphone and watch it later. By the way, if you're one of those people who may not want to record yourself because you don't like the sound of your own voice, you're in good company. Many people think they sound weird when they hear their own voice. Be assured that others probably think you sound just fine. Remember, you'll be talking in front of people for your speech either way, and recording your voice can help build confidence. Another thing you can do to practice is to ask others to listen to your speech and give you feedback. Ask them what parts they liked or disliked. Ask them for ideas on how to improve it. You don't need to accept their advice if you disagree. It's your speech, not theirs, but it's still good to gather input from others. Can you think of any other ways you can practice your speech? Created by Advocates in Action, Rhode Island. Copyright 2026. Remember, nothing about us without us.